welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan, but for short, Johnny also works. Today, I wanted to go over the Silent Protagonist. The Silent Protagonist has been discussed for many years. Their silence is noted to be a vessel to immerse ourselves in the game. Because of this, the character type is considered to be outdated and unnecessary when compared to the other characters who will talk and express themselves within the video game. It is believed as well that the Silent Protagonist is not developed. I would like to speak about what makes a character developed in general. As we continue, I want to look at the voice game protagonist, which is the figure you play as in a more story-heavy video game, and the avatar, the character you take the form of or create in the way you would like to. My goal is to simply provide another perspective on the silent protagonist and demonstrate how they have a character just like the voice game protagonist. With this in mind, what should we know about the figure in order for them to be developed? What should we see to understand them completely? In order for the silent protagonist to be like the voice game protagonist, there should be similarities in the way both will act in game, right? What we should see in the individual is something several people have varying opinions on. I can't say there's an objective way to claim what features a character should have to make them fleshed out. However, I believe we can all agree that in order for a character to be developed, it's important to see the attributes that makes them into the person they are. When the character's identity is expanded on, it will make them fleshed out. This leads to them having depth as well. To me, in order to see the features that will give us the information we need about the figure we play in a game or see in a story, we should know their personality with more than one or two traits, understand how the character feels internally, their relationship with others, what they enjoy or do not enjoy, and see what inspires them. Seeing the character's personality is necessary since it will inform us about who they are. Knowing just one or two traits doesn't display much about them. When the individual executes and presents the other attributes that were mentioned regarding what makes a character, it will let us know their personality as well. The way a character feels on the inside reveals how they view themselves, how they think, and how they perceive the potential scenarios they come across. Observing the protagonist's personal dynamics and relationships lets the viewer know the character's feelings towards others and vice versa. Seeing what the character enjoys and does not enjoy inform us about their taste when they come across an event in the story. This will let the viewer know their opinions. Finally, the viewer understanding an individual's inspiration can reveal what drives them and what they are passionate about. These are the attributes that a silent protagonist will have, just like the voice game protagonist. Most people would generally include character development and a backstory. The reason is that character development can expand or enhance a person's view on their life, state of mind, and personality. This allows us to see and learn more about them. As for a backstory, knowing the character's beginning and the path that led them to be who they are now helps us understand them better. It is true that character development can extend and add to a person, but an individual can be built to already be filled out without changing or adding to who they are and not having a backstory. However, the predetermined qualities and other attributes of a character were fleshed out when they were created and gave us the information we need to understand them. Because of this, it's not required to enhance their features or add traits to their being. Knowing a character's past is not necessary if their facets are shown in enough detail and depth for us to grasp who they are. The absence of their past may also give mystery around the character. An opinion that is mentioned for the silent protagonist is that the character type has no personality. However, this is not true. If you describe someone in one way, dull, angry, or only happy, this is telling us about who they are as a person. Labeling a character with two traits, summarizing them in a sentence, or both will make them a flat character, showing they have some personality. For a character to have no personality, there is nothing you can say about them. Something I see many people focus on is feeling your personality is based on facial expressions, movements, and the words of a character. It is true that your personality can be shown by your emotions, words, and also movements, but there are numerous ways you can convey your personality. Your personality can be conveyed through writing, conveyed through a song, or your artwork when you paint. The list can go on and on. If we break down the meaning, your emotions show how you feel internally, while your expressions bring out how you feel externally. However, there are also a number of ways for a character to express their emotions. Just as art, writing, and more can show your personality, you can show your emotions in those ways as well. It should be noted that though the silent protagonist is known not to speak, there are times they will, but we can't hear it. They are also sometimes by themselves on a mission where no one else is talking to them. Because of this, there isn't a reason for them to speak. A person may claim that the voice game protagonist will talk and emote more than the silent protagonist. Because of this, it would mean the silent protagonist is a less developed character. While yes, some silent protagonists won't express themselves through talking or facial expressions as much as the voice game protagonist, however, it does not imply that the silent protagonist is less developed as a whole. The only thing is that the voice game protagonist could show their character more openly than the silent protagonist. As we have seen and will continue to see, although the silent protagonist may not speak or emote to the same extent as the voice game game protagonist. The silent protagonist shows their attributes in different ways that are still fully developed as the voice game protagonist. Both character types can stand as fully fleshed out characters. It's viewed that with the silent protagonist, since they are silent and we can't hear their thoughts or opinions, it's another reason why the character type is seen as not having a personality. On an adventure with the voice game protagonist, when they are talking to themselves or communicating with their partner, we will see how they feel about what they are going up against or what's on their mind, allowing us to see the main character's personality. However, while the player will guide the voice game protagonist through the obstacles they will come across or the direction they need to go, we won't always hear their thoughts. They will be silent and not speak. During the game, someone can speak to the voice game protagonist, but they won't always respond back. They aren't sharing their input on the conversation or their thoughts still. In Uncharted 2, Among Thieves, Drake asks if Flynn knows where he's going, and Flynn replies saying, "Don't I always?" as a sarcastic way of answering him. Drake doesn't reply. Though Flynn was being sarcastic and giving an answer to Drake, Drake could have given his thoughts about what Flynn said by talking to him, or even making a slight comment to himself to show why he may or may not trust Flynn. By Drake saying nothing, we don't know how he feels. In another part of the game, when Drake is arming explosives, Sully comments on how many more they have left, but Drake isn't interacting with him about it and is silent. Whereas if he did say something, we could see his witty personality. When Drake finished arming the explosives, Sully even comments on them giving the Zarovich, the game's antagonist, a visit, but Drake doesn't share his input on what Sully said. Normally Drake would say something to Sully, however, it seems like he didn't feel the need to. In Ratchet & Clank, the 2016 remake, at the start of the game when Ratchet finished helping Grim talks to Ratchet about the tryouts and tells Ratchet, "Show him what you got, kid," but Ratchet doesn't respond, saying his thoughts regarding Grim's words. When we reach Planet Pokataru, we meet the character Felton Raz. Later on, he'll tell a story of how he and his brother Grim used to travel to the waterfall. When his story is over, Ratchet doesn't respond to it, so we can't hear his view on the story. Though during gameplay Ratchet can talk and respond to what someone is saying, sometimes he doesn't share his views. The final example I'll be talking about is Horizon Zero Dawn. Sometimes during gameplay when someone is saying something to Aloy, she doesn't answer them unless you control her to talk with the person calling her. When she hears a conversation as well, generally, she won't say anything about what is being said. As she walks with the character known as the Blameless Marad, several people will begin talking about Aloy. He tells her to ignore them and claim the people who are speaking are like children who whine. Aloy doesn't reply to him or even comment to herself as she sometimes will. Instead, she is silent. Please know that I'm not saying that the voice game protagonist needs to always talk or respond to a comment. I just want to show that there are times in the game we don't verbally hear their thought process or opinions. Continuing with the design of the voice game protagonist, in game the character type is shown in the following ways. You see the character emote most of the time in cutscenes. As the player takes the voice game protagonist through any barriers, the character can have a different reaction from the way we would react and will do things we would or wouldn't do. When we play the game, we can know where to go and what to do. If the voice game protagonist comes against an issue, though we solved it by guiding them, it is viewed as if they did it. There can be multiple ways to go to a goal. When someone else plays, it will be different from the way we have played the game. The player can choose to go off of the main mission and explore different locations. There are some items we have a choice of picking up for gameplay purposes, which we could use for our mission or simply gather for enjoyment to learn more about the story or characters. Although it wasn't the game's purpose for you to do so, we could get hurt or even die while we were playing. With the inclusion of how the character type is silent in the game, what is listed here for the voice game protagonist, the silent protagonist will do the same. At the end of the day, both character types are established for game. In order to see their character and story, we have to guide them through what is written and created for them. This is seen in movies and stories as well. The actor has to follow what is written out for them as the character they'll play as. When the character goes through scenarios, conversations, and more, it will let us know who they are. In order to perceive who a character is, a narrative has to be presented. If not, how can we understand the character if there isn't a way to establish what type of person they are? It's what the individual will do in the story that will show their nature. Many times the silent protagonist is compared to the avatar character. Because some avatars are silent, will not always emote, and are considered to be an insert to view yourself like the silent protagonist, it's why both character types are often compared. After this, however, that is all they have in common. The silent protagonist is said to be a blank slate like some avatars. When looking at the word blank slate, nothing will be on the slate. It's completely clear so you can create whatever you want. This isn't true for the silent protagonist, and some some avatar characters. One variation of the avatar types enables you to create and customize them. Despite the fact that some avatars can have a backstory, you can construct their mentality, demeanor, personal thoughts, and more. They weren't created to have an established nature, so we can decide what type of character they should be. This is shown in games like Fallout 3, Skyrim, and Mass Effect. The following kind of avatar is one you might encounter in an RPG, known as a role-playing game. This is where you can take the role of a character you made. I do want to mention that there are RPG characters that have their own attributes and are not avatars. The narrative in an RPG can sometimes be predetermined. The character you chose or created will have a general personality, seen by what you guide them through in the game. In an RPG, you or other players can choose or create numerous versions of the character that has been established, or one who is a randomly generated individual in the game. The individual you chose or selected will share the same story, demeanor, or lore as another character you or other players could create. Even if there's a slight difference, the figure we chose may still be the same in essence. It's the personal qualities and opinions of a character in a game or narrative that make them their own individual. If the character we picked has the same attributes and story as the alternate version of themselves, it could illustrate that they aren't their own distinct individual. Unless it's mentioned otherwise, the character we chose or made isn't the factual one who carried out the game's developments. We add our interpretation of the individual who executed the narrative because we have the choice to construct or select the character we want to follow the story. The games that can show this are Monster Hunter, Neo 2, and Fire Emblem Three Houses. By an RPG being a role-playing game, the individual figure you chose or created may have a few traits, and you may personally give more information about their history, story, personality, and more. With the information we have about the RPG character, let's compare the character type to the silent protagonist. The silent protagonist would already be an established character, having a predetermined demeanor, set of beliefs, and motivation. You don't have to construct them or decide how they should behave. It's not up for debate who the silent protagonist is. The individual going through the events is the figure that's in the narrative. In general, there isn't any other variation of the silent protagonist with the same characteristics, goals, or mentality. With the voice game protagonist, silent protagonist, and avatar figure in an RPG, you can make choices for them all. You are able to choose where they go or what they'll say. With that said, the character overall is set in stone. Some of you may agree with what I'm saying in regard to the silent protagonist having a character. However, as I began by saying how the silent protagonist is used as a vessel to immerse ourselves, it's discussed that the personality and motivation that the character will have, their traits are supposed to be used for you so you can see yourself as the character. Just like the silent protagonist, the voice game protagonist will have personal traits as well. If we claim that the personal traits of the silent protagonist are designed so we can see ourselves as them, the same can be true for the voice game protagonist. Though this is an analysis for the silent protagonist, this is something that can go for real life as well. For us to truly understand someone, we have to look deeper at what they are showing in their actions and character. Just as we don't have to guess or make up another character's personality, we don't have to do the same with the silent protagonist. It's said that since the silent protagonist doesn't speak, their silence is the space where you can put your personality onto them. Still, many people can insert their personality onto the silent protagonist and will see them as their own character. However, this doesn't mean you can't at all. Even in life, we can see ourselves as someone when we hear their similar story or when they do something like us, putting our nature onto the person. For some, they can put their personality in a character who fully speaks. It's the reason why many want an individual in a story they can relate to. Some will connect to the character because they will see their nature in the person of the story. Something else I would like to add to this section is it's viewed that the personality of the silent protagonist is supposed to be a representation of you. Because of this, it's another reason why they aren't considered to be their own characters. However, what a character represents is subjective to many. Not only that, but people in a game or story who talk can be viewed as a representation of you, and they are still considered to be their own individuals. With the next statement in regards to the silent protagonist, some feel the character type is too safe. From my understanding, many feel they do not have any qualities that will make them stand out, like having over-the-top expressions, being bold, etc. Instead, they are kind and nice. To add to this aspect, it's because they are good and heroic that makes them generic. Though, even if they have a character, their personality doesn't make you feel anything for them. There are many silent protagonists that have multiple sides to them. Just like other protagonists, they do struggle and come across trials. A character can be made to be simple. However, through being simple, it's the character's mindset, personality, and motives that makes them interesting. Even if they are good, it's how they take on the challenges with their good-natured personality, which is why people like them. There aren't objective qualities towards what makes a character stand out. We all have different opinions on the special qualities a figure should have. With that said, I then ask this question: what character in a game, movie, show, etc. will have their own personal traits just for them, something unique and rare hasn't been done before, or you won't see anything hardly like it, but at this point in time, a character will have similar traits and arcs that has been done many times before. Even if it stops connecting with a particular character or story, it will connect with another. However, what makes things different is the execution of the character, which makes them their own individual. We all can have different emotional investments towards a story or character. You can have a figure in a story who has a touching background that you connect with, but to someone else, they don't feel connected to that character. We are finally coming to the conclusion. I now ask this: how do we analyze the silent protagonist? The answer to this is just like any other character in fiction. Step 1. You can look at their story in the game manual, plot, or something that can connect to the series. We can see the character's motivation and the details about their personality. Step 2. Seeing the character's actions and their goal that they have to reach in the game. If we look at the main mission or obstacle that the character has to go through in the story in order to continue, it will show their nature. The reason I'm saying main mission is because it wasn't necessary to complete some alternative missions in order to reach their goal, complete the game, or advance the plot. Because the activity is optional, you have the choice of not completing it. It can make the occurrences subjective because they vary from the view of another individual. We might not be able to characterize the figure using the optional missions, since it would depend on how you chose to perceive them. Although the player can choose whether or not to complete some of the main missions, it's still what the game wants you to do. It serves as the main storyline for the events that the character encounters and experiences during the course of the game or narrative. Step 3. The words that are said to them or what is written when they come by an obstacle on their adventure. In game, you may see a sign stating how dangerous the next area is. Because of the narrative, they'll go through it still. Or, while talking to an NPC, they'll mention how the character is really fired up with energy for fighting a boss. These situations are telling us about them. Another reason why I think some disregard this silent protagonist is due to people feeling all of them will have the exact same personality traits, motives, and story. Just like there are different protagonists in a game, movie, or TV show, the silent protagonist can be different from other silent protagonists as well. Here are some examples. There is more to their characters, but I just want to touch on some of their facets to show how they differ from each other. Link from The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess acts as an older brother to the children of Ordon Village. This is seen by Link letting them try things they normally shouldn't, but he is also protective over them. In BioShock, a man named Atlas put the main character Jack under mind control, but after defeating him, Jack is free to live in peace, and when he finds the children called little sisters, he will adopt them and provide them with a joyful life. This conclusion is confirmed by BioShock Infinite. Samus is a powerful, tough, but also caring character. In Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, she becomes sorrowful and shows respect by placing her hand on the marine that passed. She wants the character to be at peace. And then you have Joker, who's witty and sarcastic and also enjoys showing off during some situations. We went through the ins and outs of what makes a character, what is the meaning of a personality, the similarities between the voice game protagonists, and so much more. However, one question remains. It's a question that many have thought about time after time, which is, if a silent protagonist has everything a character will have, why bother to make them silent most of the time? To add to this, since the creator made them to be silent, they still wouldn't have a character. The creators still feel you're supposed to view yourselves through them. However, the point of view of the maker does not invalidate what the viewer would perceive in the artist's work. Even when a creator means for the work to be taken in a certain direction, the viewer can take it differently. Games like Melee, though had mechanics purposefully included, the creator didn't intend for it to be exploited the way fans were able to. Today, after many years, Melee is still held as one of the best fighting games ever. To me, though the silent protagonist doesn't speak much, the character type is still interesting because of the many other ways they can show their character and be fully developed. In conclusion, I hope I was able to shed more light on the silent protagonists and show how though they are silent, they can still be fully developed characters. I would like to give a special shout out and thanks to Xeon who made the thumbnail. It's really cool. And Needle Designs who does incredible work as well. He will be making a banner for the channel. Both of them are super talented and do amazing work. Their Twitter accounts are in the description. I would also like to take a moment and thank everyone for their support and suggestions when I was working on this project. It truly means a ton and I will never forget about it. And I would like to thank all of you for your time and for listening to what I have to say. I hope everyone has a good day.